You're listening to Over the Back Fence, a conversation among neighbors, which is a production of Neighborhood Falmouth. Our conversationalists today include Jackie Pratt, Marion Bihari, Grant Willis, Mary Pat McKenzie, and me, I'm Susan Laux. So our conversation for this episode is strange foods I love, or strange foods someone I love loves, or strange foods that I eat at a strange time, or anything about unusual foods that that strikes you as pertinent to this conversation. So who wants to go first?
I guess I'll go. Because I have a list of strange food. I'm having lived in Baton Rouge in New Orleans. I'm addicted to Creole and Cajun food, and I've discovered I have to be careful as I get older because I can't handle hot heat anymore. And I was the kind of person that would go for jalapeno poppers if I had,
Wow.
and gorge on them but I can't do that. Haven't been able to do that in a couple of decades, I think. But it's the thing is, I still, I love red beans and rice. I always feel good when I'm making a pot of it. The butcher at the butcher at Windfall saves ham hocks for me. He keeps them in his freezer in a little bag. I said, how do you label them? And he said, for the lady in the wheelchair. and he says, I'm not sure.
What is it that he's saving? What is it he's saving? Is it all
ham hocks?
Oh.
Cook with any kind of beans. They're wonderful.
How many grits?
Yeah, and they're cheap. They're very, you can put a lot of meat in without spending too much money. But I've even because the senior center has helped me out some with food. They'll send you the government cans of pork, and I thought, oh, terrific! I can put them in my beans. but I haven't ever met a food group I didn't like, and probably the strangest thing that I really, really, really like is snails. I love escargot, and and how I came to try them is kind of funny. But I was in college, and my stepfather came to town on business, and he said, "I'd like to take you out to Lamont. It's a really fancy restaurant up on top of one of the mountains that overlooks the Allegheny River." And so I said, "Oh, okay." So I looked around as to what I had. Back then we wore cocktail dresses, so I had a college cape, cocktail dress, and and I sat down and the first thing I did is apparently I ordered the wrong drink because I didn't know what to order, and so I said I'd like a Rodbury, like I knew what I was doing, and I was informed that's the dessert drink, and and I thought I've got to up my game here because I was in college and I was sophisticated and I wasn't. So the waiter was being helpful and he said, perhaps you'd like to try escargot. And I said, I would. Thank you. And they came and I was like horrified. I remember thinking, what did I get myself into? And he said, I always show people who order this how to he said, I'm sure you're familiar with this, but so he showed me how to use the little clamper thing and the little fork. I was off and running, and I thought I'll get these down. I ended up with white wine, which was probably a good thing, and they were wonderful because they were basically all you could taste was garlic and some herbs. It was like, oh, this is fantastic. And there's nothing I could find fault with garlic and herbs. I got to like them enough so that one of my favorite, when I lived in New York years later, there was a restaurant called L'escargot, and on I think it was on 57th, and I lived on 53rd, and I worked nearby. I worked across the street, so it was like I'd go there for any chance I got. Lunch, dinner, talk people to going there for dinner, because all they served were snails and French bread and salad, wine. But
Jackie, did you know they were ground snails?
I never asked.
I never really thought about that. There's more kind of snail.
I was shocked to discover they weren't like periwinkles from the sea. They are ground snails.
Oh, I know I know they're not seafood,
Right.
but I thought they fed them special mulberry leaves or something. But I probably,
You could probably take the ones from your garden that get on the plants.
I think the silkworms get the mulberry leaves.
Oh, is it silkworms?
Yeah.
I try not to think about where my food comes from, or I never eat lobster, or what it eats. But
Oh, I love it. I love it.
yeah, no, and it's not my family's fault. My grandmother was somebody who would kill her own. She could buy live chickens and kill them, and turkeys too, because she felt that, and she talked to me about it. I wouldn't look, but the thing, she never got me to watch the whole process. But the thing is, she wanted me to know where my food came from. That something living thing was giving up.
Yeah, that's something noble, that's for sure. And honest, and yeah.
But the thing is, I try very hard not to think about where some of my food comes from.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, which factory for some of it.
yeah, that's one thing. I won't eat tuna from I won't eat tuna from China. That's about the only thing that but
Who else?
I have one. This is my all-time favorite food. And it's really pathetic because it's tinned and you can't buy it in the United States. You have to order it from England. Steak and kidney pie.
Oh,
Comes in a can like that.
Oh,
You get it off and you bake it in the oven. And I mean, I love basically all food. There's other than I'm sorry that there's certain hot foods that I used to like that I really can't tolerate anymore. But I can still tolerate steak and kidney pie at any time, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It wouldn't matter to me.
Whose kidney is in there?
Cow kidneys.
Okay, just checking. Okay.
Now, the worst food I've ever eaten, and the only thing probably I hope never to eat again, is I was at a cocktail party in Toronto a long time ago, and somebody served us moose liver pate. And if anybody ever offers it, just say no, thank you. I'm on a diet. It's vile. But other than that, if it doesn't eat me first, I'll eat it. But especially steak and kidney pie.
I love it. Steak. So when is the last time you had steak and kidney pie?
Pie? I ordered a case of it at the beginning of the virus.
oh my gosh.
You've got it.
And it came
So
in
does the rest of your family like it?
No, it's great. So it's just my weakness.
Good thing.
They don't eat it.
Nice.
And that works out just fine for me. They can eat whatever they want and I can have that.
Sounds very British.
It is very, it's puff food, but it's and it's in puff pastry. It's not like, it's very light and delicious, and I've loved it since I was a kid, which is so strange.
Canadian comfort food or British comfort food.
Yeah, yeah, probably.
So Grant or Marion, how about you guys?
Very. I'm a wasabi
Well, go
person.
ahead, Grant.
Okay. Well, wasabi,
Right.
when I was introduced to wasabi, I made the mistake of eating the whole dish. For those of you who perhaps are not following our series. And since then, I've ended up liking wasabi um, on just about everything. I mean, I don't quite just spread it on bread and eat a sandwich,
Wow.
but I'm close because I don't know why. Maybe it's like getting back on a horse that threw you off. But by golly, I'm going to eat all the wasabi I can find. And I've actually been able to tell slight differences in taste between commercially available
Wow.
wasabi jars. So that's my little niche, and I'm not coming out of it.
That's
There,
so.
Marion.
So where do you get wasabi locally?
I don't get the actual wasabi buds. I get the prepared wasabi sauce
Mhm.
and stuff, and that's usually there usually have 3 or 4 different um, brands in your average supermarket, so you can move around.
That's great. I
Yeah.
love that you are that you're sophisticated enough that you can, have different, like this is a B level wasabi for me. Now I need an A level wasabi.
Yeah, something that doesn't make the tears shoot out of my eyes. I know that was a bad night.
You tell that story so well.
I'm sure.
Oh my goodness. Note to listeners, Grant told the primary story a couple of episodes ago, so look for that episode. Marion, what about you?
Well, I was trying to think what are my guilty pleasures, and I love dim sum. I don't know if everybody knows what that is. I'm sure most people do. And I love when they walk around with their little carts. And then when they get to your table, they open up the little baskets with the steamed food in it. And here, the only place I know of close by is in Quincy. But when we lived in New York, you could get it anywhere. And we would travel to Queens, and they would have this restaurant, usually on the second floor, with 500 people in one of the restaurants. And there must have been over 100 tables. And it was just amazing. And anything and everything. But one of my favorites is something called steamed pork buns. They're little white buns with pork inside of it. The pork has sort of a red coloring to it. And that's just wonderful. There was someplace here, but there really isn't. So the only thing to continue with that is one of the times we took my son and he ordered chicken feet, and they in a little container chicken feet, and he was young then. He'd pick up the chicken feet and he'd start walking all over the table with the chicken feet. And there were other people at our table. It's sort of, you eat like family style, and every started watching him, and he was playing with the little chicken
Oh my,
feet on the table. I think,
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Marion. I love it. I love
yes.
That's great.
Eat 'em?
So what about you?
Oh, for me, I guess I would say that, I'm I'm an open eater to some things and I'm a closed eater to other things. And so I guess one of the things, like after college, when I lived in a house with a bunch of people, it became clear to all of us, I didn't really like, at the time, I wouldn't be interested in eggs at all. I often wasn't interested in cereal for breakfast. So at breakfast time, a lot of times I would make a soup, or I would like a cup of soup or something. I really didn't cook much, or I would make a tuna fish sandwich. And it kind of startled the people that I lived with, and they would call it the Susan Laux Memorial Breakfast, because I would have something really odd, non-breakfasty for breakfast. So I guess there's that. Now I'm a little bit more traditional sometimes. I'm not so egg adverse, I guess. But I would say that my husband Kyle and his dad Bill Banks, who used to run the Market Street bookshop, his Banks was a great cook, and Kyle would take him to the Korean markets and to other international grocery stores. And Bill, what I love about them, and Kyle does the same thing, would pick up a can and it would have absolutely no English on it. And he'd look at it and kind of examine it. And then he'd get 4 of them and put them in the basket. And then you just go down the aisle and just take some of this. And you just kind of figure out what it was. Some of the labels had some English on it. And I just admired that. And he grew up on a farm, and they made something called scrapple, which I think
Yes.
just I won't eat it pretty much, because I think mostly because of what it's called. But it's kind of a spam. You guys know what scrapple is?
Yeah.
What is scrapple?
It's meatloafy, eggs. It's a like a mishmash of stuff thrown in a pan and heated up.
Is it kind of like what did I just say? Spam?
Yeah, it's Pennsylvania Dutch, and some people make it with like a mincemeat with apples and
Or corned beef.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
corned beef or pork. It started out, I think, as a breakfast food.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's how he ate it.
because most of the Pennsylvania Dutch were farmers, and they needed something to start the day.
I think it was probably a farm breakfast, don't you, Jackie? That's how it originated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was a way to use up leftovers.
Yeah, from dinner the night before.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't necessarily have the same ingredients every time.
No.
Gotcha. It was sort of a catch-all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Bill was a great cook. I worked for him, and he was a great cook.
Yeah.
He made the best kale soup on earth.
Nice. Yeah, I love kale.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, there were at his memorial service, there were lots of stories about people who would raid the freezer or somebody would say, "Oh, I've got some extra pieces of fish in my freezer, go get them." And then that person would go back and find none because he had taken them all or whatever.
He always had a stash of oysters, which
You're an oyster person.
yes.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
you and my daughter would get along. She loved oysters, and she from the time she was a little tiny kid. And I can remember one of the first times I took her to Quincy Market. She was having a ball. She just bought some red velvety Christmas shoes with rhinestones on them, and she was showing off her shoes to everybody. But we got
Let's bring oysters.
we got to the raw bar that was in the food court, and she was fascinated with all of that. She was eating shrimp, and she told the person who was shucking the oysters she wanted to try those. And he said, "I'll tell you what, I'll give you 6, and if you eat them, they're free." and and she did. She ate them. And when she'd get good grades, we would go somewhere where she could get, oftentimes landfall. We'd go somewhere where we could get oysters. Because she wanted oysters and Caesar salad. That was her idea of heaven.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Does anybody on this panel remember when the calamari boats, the boats that were out fishing for calamari would be off Falmouth Harbor in April and May? And you could go down to the wharf and you could you just take a big bucket and they would just fill it with calamari for you and you could bring it home. And that was always a treat. It was free. It was like, they were gonna, I don't know, throw it out. I guess it was what was left over when they were freezing the stuff to take to market. It was great.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was. It would go on for a couple of weeks.
Nice. Nice. And has anybody tried anything lately that they'd never tried before?
No.
I think, well, I mean, there has been some cooking during the pandemic. That's for sure. But yeah,
Sorry, my phone's ringing.
I
A
can't
lot of
think of anything
cooking.
off the top of my head. Great. Well, then let's wrap up this episode and thank everyone for coming, and we will see you next time.
Yeah.